The Australian Citizens Party is urging Australians to direct their anger at yesterday's revelations that banks are deliberately subjecting customers to maximum inconvenience and deceiving them about branch closures at the two major parties for their bipartisan, hands-off attitude towards the banking system. The Citizens Party is warning that Treasurer Jim Chalmers and Shadow Treasurer Angus have stitched up a backroom bipartisan deal that takes the hands-off attitude to the extreme, agreeing to push through a bill that will remove the elected government's responsibility for the Reserve Bank of Australia. Australians should be furious that our political leaders have sat on their hands while the major banks have used deliberate deception to rip out essential banking services all across the country. They should be equally furious that Chalmers and Taylor have an agreement to essentially abandon their responsibility to ensure the Reserve Bank acts in the best interests of the nation instead of pumping billions of dollars of taxpayer money into the mega profits of the major banks that are treating their customers appallingly. As Michelle Bowers reported on the 21st of November in an exclusive article for news.com.au, an ANZ whistleblower has exposed that ANZ directs staff not to serve customers who visit branches, so they are forced to serve themselves at the ATM or by telephone, enabling ANZ to use the absence of customers to justify closing branches. The ANZ deepthroat, whom Michelle Bowers calls Philip, a fake name to protect his identity, debunked the lie ANZ CEO Shane Elliott told to the House Economics Committee in July when he blamed branch closures on customers not using the branches, claiming that we're running a business here and we want to be interacting with our customers as much as possible. According to Philip, ANZ directs staff at his bank to have a digital-first mindset and to direct customers to use the in-branch ATM or telephone, or even to do banking at the ATM for the customers, so the transactions would not be counted in the branch's service statistics. He and other staff received email directives like, quote, "Over-the-counter traffic is up this month, don't let it get away from you," unquote, and, quote, "Try not to do any card activations in branch this month," unquote. And verbal directives like, quote, "All transactions under $1,000 must be done using an ATM," unquote. Philip said he quit his job at ANZ the day an elderly, vision-impaired customer was struggling to use an in-branch ATM, so he served her at the counter, for which his supervisor questioned him, saying, quote, "If customers want service, it's on our terms," unquote. The millions of bank customers who've been extremely inconvenienced by long bank queues and wait times now know it was deliberate bank policy to torture their customers into digital banking to create fake stats to justify branch closures. The Senate inquiry into regional bank closures has heard their shocking stories. For 25 years, the politicians' excuse for doing nothing while the banks have abused customers has been that government shouldn't interfere with commercial decisions. But remember, these are the banks that receive billions in support from the government and the Reserve Bank of Australia. It's time that the government ended its hands-off approach and took responsibility for acting on behalf of the people to ensure we have a banking system that serves the people and the economy. Responsibility must extend to keeping government responsibility for the Reserve Bank of Australia, which Chalmers and Taylor intend to legislate away. The Citizens Party has proven on numerous occasions now that active engagement by the population with their elected officials can and does have a political impact. The Citizens Party played leading roles, for example, in defeating legislation to ban cash transactions over $10,000 3 years ago, as well as establishing the current Senate inquiry into rural branch closures, which has been exposing the egregious truth behind these branch closures and carries with it the potential for real solutions such as a public post office bank. It is the thousands of people that rallied behind our campaigns that made these victories happen. What you and others in your social circles do can and does have an effect. Now is the time for you to take personal responsibility for this threat to your democratic rights and your economic livelihood and intervene to ensure that your elected officials do not hand more power over to the private banks, which have already thoroughly proven that they will use that power for their own benefit, irrespective of the damage and destruction that they leave in their wake. Parliament is in recess this week before coming back next week for the last sitting fortnight of the year, when Chalmers said he will introduce his bill to remove the elected government's responsibility for the Reserve Bank of Australia. It is vital that this week, do it today, everyone phone and email Treasurer Jim Chalmers, Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor, and your local MP to demand that they not pass this bill, and especially not remove Section 11 of the Reserve Bank Act 1959. Tell them they have no right to give away the democratic power that our greatest forefathers, John Curtin and Ben Chifley, fought to enshrine in law to a banker's dictatorship. Finally, share this video as broadly as you can on all your social feeds and help get the word out and encourage others to engage in this most critical political fight.